Welcome back to the channel. Glad you could join us. We're going to start today in a text in 1 Samuel chapter 23, starting in verse 19. And there the text says, Then the Ziphites went up to Saul at Gibeah, saying, Is not David hiding among us in the strongholds at Horish? Now let's jump down to verse 25. Saul and his men went to seek him, and David was told. So he went down to the rock and lived in the wilderness of Maon. When Saul heard that, he pursued after David in the wilderness of Maon. Saul went on one side of the mountain, and David and his men went on the other side of the mountain. And David was hurrying to get away from Saul. As Saul and his men were closing in on David and his men to capture them, a messenger came to Saul saying, Hurry and come, for the Philistines have made a raid against the land. So Saul returned from pursuing after David and went against the Philistines. Therefore that place was called the Rock of Escape. Now I want us to imagine for a second being David. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine being pursued by this individual, Saul? And you're constantly on the run. And not only do you have Saul chasing after you, but you have people that are essentially his informants around the land that report back to him whenever they see you. And now Saul is closing in on you. He's gaining ground. He will capture you. And suddenly, he turns away. What would you feel? I would feel a huge sigh of relief, right? I would be so thankful that he turned away. Now, the text doesn't explicitly say that God was involved in this. It doesn't say that here. But was God? Well, we'll look at another passage a little bit later to answer that question. But right now, what I want us to think about is unexpected deliverance. Now, how might that look today? Well, perhaps there's a situation where a person was going to get in their car. Maybe they were going to drive down the road and wreck into yours. Now, perhaps it started raining and the person said, well, I'm just not going to go for my drive now. I'm going to wait a little bit longer. Who knows? Maybe that was unexpected deliverance. Perhaps it's a boss, and that boss was going to add something to your plate that you just could not handle. You already had so much on your plate and you couldn't handle anymore. The stress was just getting to be too much. And suddenly, someone or something diverted that boss's attention to another project. And maybe you were no longer had to take on that project for yourself. Maybe that is an unexpected deliverance. Perhaps there's a situation where a person who didn't know that they had COVID at the time was maybe diverted from going to specific locations where you may have been. Perhaps that's an unexpected deliverance. I wonder how many things like this are happening in the background that are saving us from pain or heartache that we may not have orchestrated or made happen on our own. You know, we asked at the beginning, was God involved in David's deliverance? I want us to look over at Psalm chapter 54. Psalm 54, and here it reads, To the choir master with stringed instruments, a maskil of David, when the Ziphites went and told Saul, is David not hiding among us? And so there's a very clear correlation between this psalm and the passage that we just read. Let's read. O God, save me by your name, and vindicate me by your might. O God, hear my prayer. Give ear to the words of my mouth. For strangers have risen against me. Ruthless men seek my life. They do not set God before themselves. Selah. Behold, God is my helper. The Lord is the upholder of my life. He will return the evil to my enemies. In your faithfulness, put an end to them. With a freewill offering I will sacrifice to you. I will give thanks to your name, O Lord, for it is good. For he has delivered me from every trouble, and my eye has looked in triumph on my enemies. There's an expectation of deliverance, and perhaps one that's already been felt. And so, here's the idea. God may bless us with deliverance in the background without our knowledge or without us orchestrating something. And perhaps those unforeseen deliverances happen more often than we think. And so what I want to encourage you today is this. You may not know it, but God may be orchestrating deliverance in your life in the background. And so, have we thanked God for those unforeseen deliverances? He's working. He always has, he always will, and he especially works for those that seek to bring glory to his name. May God bless us as he delivers us in ways that maybe we just will never be privy to or have never made happen ourselves. Have a great day.